Prakash Agarwal, the Director of Banks at India Ratings and Research, joins us now. Hi, good afternoon. You've done some analysis where you believe that the unseasonal rains in March will wash away the agri credit growth. In fact, you expect the agri NPLs to double for the banking space. Walk us through the key numbers and how these unseasonal rains will impact the NPA picture.
Yeah, what we've seen that because of this unseasonal rains, the March was the wettest month in the Indian history in the last 48 years. So a lot of states have been badly impacted. So the banks which have higher presence in the impacted areas would be impacted. So some of the banks' NPL numbers could actually double from what the numbers were. So overall, while the agri NPLs in FY14 was at about 13%, we believe the system-wide NPL because of this rain could move to 17% by the end of FY15. While the numbers will get only reflected with a lag. So in the second half of FY16, we would see this impact reflecting in the bank's performance.
How much did you say? What is the likely, increase in NPLs?
Right. So as on FY14 end, the NPLs in agri segment was 14% for the system-wide. So this number could reach to 17% because of this impact.
By September?
It will get reflected in December, second half of FY16. But this impact, of course, yeah. So about 4% increase because of this, in the agri segment.
Okay. What is the nature of the banks or the kind of banks that will be impacted?
So the banks, as you see, while the impact of this rainfall has been widespread across India, the hailstorm was mostly impacted in the northern India.
No, will it be private sector banks? Will it be large public sector banks, small public sector banks? Which kind of banks?
So mostly public sector bank. We have seen that mostly public sector banks like Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda, which have a higher presence in this. We also see interestingly even ICICI Bank, which have significant presence in this area, could also be impacted because of this rains.
What about Andhra Bank and J&K Bank? Because Andhra Bank this quarter has just reported a good improvement in their asset quality and it has a very high exposure to the agri space. Have you done the numbers for individual banks and how it can be affected?
Right. So we see Andhra Bank's NPLs in agri was about 20%. I was just listening to Lata when she was saying the NPLs has come down. A part of that could be because of the loan waiver which was announced in Telangana. A part of installments could have come, and because the part of installment came, the entire agri NPLs would have been reclassified as standard assets. So of course we wait for the commentary from the management, but part of improvement in the NPLs could be because of that. Having said that, coming back to this rainfall thing, Andhra Pradesh per se was not so much impacted because of this rainfall. So while NPLs of Andhra Bank in agri remains high, the impact because of this rainfall is likely to be very limited. So this bank is not in the one which will be more impacted or disproportionately impacted because of these rainfalls.
You singled out BOB and Punjab National Bank. Are they likely to be the more affected ones?
Yeah, so Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda. So for Punjab National Bank, the NPLs was about 15% in FY14. We think that the NPL ratio in agri segment could increase by 6 percentage points for Punjab National Bank. And thus the number for Bank of Baroda could be like from starting of 10% as on FY14, it could add to about 19% because of this rainfall in agri segment.
Which is Bank of Baroda's problem area, geographically speaking? Does it lend to Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan?
So Bank of Baroda, if you see, they have a larger presence, of course, starting with Gujarat. So they have larger presence in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana. These are the areas where Bank of Baroda would have larger presence in the rural areas. And these are also the regions which have been higher impacted because of this rainfall.
Why not Allahabad Bank and banks like that? Why are you singling out Bank of Baroda? I'm asking because Bank of Baroda actually relatively has fewer NPLs than other public sector banks.
Right, but if you see the NPLs in agri segment for that bank is about 10%. So while overall NPLs could be somewhat lower compared to other PSUs, But agri NPLs are high, and because of their presence in the region, the way the branches are spread in the states, and we think that Bank of Baroda could be one of the banks which could be higher impacted because of the rainfall. Okay. For Allahabad banks, if you see the NPLs to start with is about 16%, their impact would be about 4 percentage points. That's what we impact. So while the total NPLs in agri could be very high, it's still about 20%. The impact of this rainfall for Allahabad bank may not be so high. Okay. Primarily because of their presence.
You told us agri NPAs could hit 17% by second half of FY16. Now there is a very high probability of monsoon being deficient even this year. That's what the early estimates indicate from Met. So does that mean that this number of 17% is only going to increase if it happens?
Seems likely. So, if you see the 14% number itself was about FY14, and then FY15 rainfall was not very good. It was delayed as well as deficient. So, impact of that will get reflected, and on the top of that this unseasonal rain. So, if the rainfalls were to be weaker than what have been the long-term trend, certainly that could further aggravate the impact of agri NPLs, and that could certainly have pushed on the northern side to the total NPL numbers for the banking sector.
All right. We'll have to leave it at that, Prakash. Thank you very much for joining us with your analysis of what might happen to some of these banks because of the unseasonal rains.